Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 3 and our very first season as Body Peace.
We're so glad you're here as we begin this new chapter.
I'm Jennie Kramer.
And I'm Nina Manolson.
If you've been with us since the beginning, you'll remember we started as Her Story on a Plate, exploring food, bodies, and culture. But no matter the topic, we always came back to the same thing, our relationship with our bodies.
So it made sense to make our name reflect what we were truly talking about, body peace. This is the heart of our work, supporting you in navigating life in a body you may not always like or respect, especially in a culture that's often critical and demanding, and learning how to build a relationship with your body that's kind, respectful, and real.
Each episode brings honest conversations with each other and with our guests about self-image, societal expectations, aging, diet culture, and the deep healing that happens when we come home to ourselves.
You'll hear personal stories and clinical insights that invite you to feel seen, supported, and gently encouraged on your own body peace journey.
We're so glad you've joined us. Welcome to Body Peace.
So, Jennie and I had great plans for today to talk about attunement disruptors, which we will eventually on a different episode. But as we were talking, a really important topic came up, which was that of our societal attitudes around aging and our attitudes around our body around aging. So we really wanted to unpack this whole idea about anti-aging and get into what is pro-aging. So let's roll.
So my favorite topic, aging. No, it actually is because, as someone who thankfully is aging, see, now, most people don't say thankfully, do they? But I
No.
thankfully am aging because what's my alternative, right? I mean, it's not very
Right.
exciting. So I am thankful to be aging, and I'm aware that I'm doing it in a society that works against aging every minute of its existence.
Yeah.
There are cultural pieces here. There are cultures that we know that really honor aging and honor how they treat those that are aging. And it's interesting that as a result, those people age more gracefully. And in our society, we sort of throw some people away. They're not
Yeah.
useful anymore based on, in large part, do they think fast enough? Do they speak fast enough? Do they look young enough?
Do they look young enough? It
Young
is
enough.
such a big thing. And it's something, I'm in this world of body image and food peace and body peace for a long time because that's my story of being at war with my body. And I feel good. I feel truly at home in my body. The place I can get really triggered is when there's this idea of, oh, so you're that age now. Well, you better do this filler and not have any wrinkles and use this cream. And gosh, your hair is silver. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe that ages your face a little bit. There's so much. It's like a $80 billion industry, anti-aging, coming at us.
Well, this is interesting too, because there's an overlap with something else. In a former life, I was extremely involved in the world of what we now call integrative medicine. And I still think it has extraordinary value in the right context at the right time with the right practitioners. But it really started with life extension. That was like
Yes,
sort of the
the
launch.
longevity business.
Right, but there was specifically this book called Life Extension, which was by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw. I don't even know if they're still alive. But they're probably 112 now. But this was back in, early 80s, we'll say. And it really sort of launched an entire way of thinking. Now, some of it is useful scientifically, this whole idea of, free radicals and the way in which we look at disease has shifted. And so it's useful in that way. But what it also launched was this idea that our jobs now were to make sure that we didn't age, or that if we were going
Yes.
to age, that we age well, whatever that means.
Well, we were supposed to hack the body such that there was no passage of time that would show up on our actual face, on our actual corporeal experience.
How many times have any of us said to someone like,
You
God,
don't look your
you
age.
don't look that age. You look so great for that
Yes.
age. You
Mhm.
know from where I sit, all ages look great
Yeah.
because I have lost so many people in my life
Yeah.
who could have lived in easily another 20, 25 years and
Yeah.
didn't. And so
Yeah.
when I think of it in those terms, I'll take every day I can get. I'm embracing the idea of age,
Mhm.
right? But I'm also aware that I'm going to age in this world, in this society.
Yeah.
And, there are ways in which there are industries that embrace aging in a way we wish they didn't, right?
Yeah.
Notice where all the assisted living facilities are now being built, right? They're being built mostly near hospitals, near rehab.
Yes.
They're being built by all the new condo developments as if the
Mhm.
idea is when you're finished over here, please come over here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Staged care, right? Levels of care. This idea that, you start in a place that's like has a gym and you end up in a place where there's memory care,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Now, by the way, that could happen, right? And if you,
mhm.
it opens up an entire discussion about privilege, by the way, because there are people that can afford for that transition to happen, and there are people that can't.
Yeah.
And for the ones that can't, that's a very sad thing. There's a lot of burden that falls on family if there is any, and God forbid they don't have family. Well, their fate is bleak. But this idea that we live in a world that is about not aging, and it's
Yeah.
so counterintuitive. And
Yeah.
yet, you and I kid around all the time. We're setting up the cameras before we get onto the podcast, and I'm always thinking like, "Oh, can I somehow like reduce this neck of mine a little bit before we get on air?"
Mhm.
Yeah, that's just sort of societal training. The truth is,
Yes.
if I looked at my neck the way the rings on a tree are, right? When we look at the rings on a tree, it
Mm.
tells us how the tree is aging, right? It tells us how old it is, how wise it is. And the
Mhm.
wisdom is the thing here, that we have
Yeah.
wisdom to impart. Even idiots have wisdom to impart if they've lived
If
for a
they've
certain
lived
number
long
of
enough,
decades,
they've had some life experience.
for
One of my
sure.
favorite studies in all of this is Becca Levy,
Mm,
who wrote the book Breaking the Age Code. And she talks about that it's not losing weight, it's not even quitting smoking, it's not reducing your blood pressure that gives us a longevity. It's
mm.
actually a pro aging attitude. It's this attitude that aging is a good thing. And fundamentally in our culture, that's not what we're getting. We're getting that aging is a bad thing, and it's only a good thing if you look like Martha Stewart, who's able to pose for swimsuit magazine, Sports Illustrated, by the time
Mhm.
when they're what, 80? When she was 80?
Yeah, mhm.
Right.
Good for her, right?
Absolutely good for her. But again, it's this idea that we only get to be seen and visible and contribute and feel like a valued member of our society if we don't look our age, whatever that means. If we don't look like we're getting older, if we try to fit into this culture that says young is powerful and old is not.
Well,
And
now young is not only powerful, young is fast. You have to
mhm,
be able to type fast, speak fast, do everything
mhm.
quickly because you're also living in the world of social media where you have
Yeah.
about 7 seconds to impress or not impress, right? And so our brains are literally working differently. The
Yeah.
expectations have changed. I'm aware of it just as a clinician, right? As a therapist, that it takes something to keep people's attention because our
Yes.
brains are actually changing in some ways, some for the better, some not for the better, because of the speed at which we're all operating. And
Yep.
some of the wisdom of aging is to slow it all the hell down because
Well, and it
you
gets
miss
into this whole, yeah, but it gets
you
into
miss
this
out.
whole idea even of GLP-1s. Quick,
Mm,
let's lose weight fast. And that's not new in the world of weight loss,
of
right? There's
course.
been the 7 pounds in 7 days model forever. But
Yeah.
again, there's this idea like we have to do everything quickly. One of the movements that I love the most in terms of cooking is the slow cooking movement.
Mm,
It's not instant, it's going to take a while. you're at a restaurant and says, we subscribe to the slow cooking movement, we're actually going to be sitting there for a while someone actually makes your food.
Imagine. Imagine.
Imagine.
The whole I
So
mean,
it,
don't get me started on the idea of fast food. That's another episode. But,
yeah.
uh,
But to
the
bring together some of these issues of this idea of we are getting old, and what does that look like? How do we have a pro-aging perspective?
mm,
And how can the pro-aging perspective impact how we feel in our body so that we're not feeling like if we don't look like we're still 18, then we don't have a right to speak. And then we lose a lot of wisdom in our culture because women who don't feel good in their body
mm,
become less connected and isolate more, which
mm.
then puts them behind the eight ball because one of the other big studies from the Rosetto effect, which is a small town in the US, where social cohesion was shown to have an incredible impact on heart health, right? When we're together, when we're in community, when we have people, when we show up for social things, that actually supports our sense of well being.
Right, now you could be listening to this and thinking, "Well, that's nice, but I'm shy, I'm introverted, I'm neurodiverse." That's okay. Communities can be large and small. There's a book called Outlive. I'm sure most have come across it. And, one of the basic tenets there is that one of the most common parts of aging well, it's not even just aging, but aging well, is to have community, is to have
Mm-hmm.
people that you can count on. It's family, it's friends, it's geographical, it's, even if it's just a community that shares your interest. By the way, it can also be a virtual community, but just the idea that you're connected in some way.
I just had a
Yeah.
client who said, I just went home and I thought I would have this experience of home being her hometown where there was aunts and uncles and everything.
Mm,
And she said, I thought I would have this experience, basically what she was describing of social cohesion and connection. And she said, mostly I just got fat shamed. And
mm,
she's like in, a body that is in the realm of what we consider in our society a small body. And
mhm.
one of the first things that somebody said to her was, "Wow, you got so skinny before, but now you've gained weight and it looks like you've gained a lot of weight." And she was like, "Wait, how did I end up like in looking for connection and then feeling bad about myself?" So when we're talking about social cohesion, where's the social connection and what is it?
Well, I also might have left a word out of there, which is chosen. You have to have
Yes,
a
there.
chosen it's a chosen community.
Yeah.
I feel for the person that you're talking about, right? Because that's obviously, a family unit or a group of people that were completely steeped in diet culture, and I have great
Mhm.
compassion for every one of them. Um, and your community has to be a chosen community. If that
Yeah.
happens to be people that share your DNA, that's great. And if it doesn't, then it's people that hopefully share your trust, that share your interests, have your interests at heart.
Yeah.
Chosen family, chosen people. I mean, that's an important part of it. Now, how do you go about choosing? Well, that's going to be based on how you see yourself, and that's going to be based on your self-esteem, right? So your community starts to reflect back to you your values and how you feel about you. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a stunning moment, right? You
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you are your own best friend, that you
Mhm.
are your advocate first, despite what
Mhm.
you look like, despite whether you think you're aging well, not aging well. Just the idea of aging is to be embraced
Yeah.
because it is inevitable. I mean,
Yeah.
at least we hope it is.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Yeah.
It is, but also in that sense of community and
Mm,
chosen connection is
mhm,
we're choosing models for ourselves,
mhm,
right? And when we grow up in a culture where the people in the elder generation were kind of tucked away or diminished, that became a model that the
mm,
only way to have agency, to have a sense of autonomy and power was to be young and fast.
yes.
Versus if you're in a community or there's a model of somebody who is getting older, who is very vocal, who's very visible, who's willing to be seen. I often think of my mom is 93.
Oh,
right?
God bless.
Talk about a model for aging.
Mm,
Unbelievable human. And
mm.
one of the things, a few years ago, in the land of selfies, I always take pictures when we're together. And a few years ago, she started saying this thing was so compelling. I would take a picture, and like I do with many friends, I'd show it to them and go, "Is that okay? Do you like that picture?" And she started saying to me, "I'm in it, so it's great."
Oh, gosh. Wow.
And that's the attitude, right?
Mm,
For me, I have been modeled a pro aging attitude. Thank goodness I am here in this body, in
mm,
this life, having the experience that I'm having,
right.
especially when we know that that doesn't happen for everybody. To be in, like,
That's
yes, I am in the picture.
Yeah, and I want that's such a beautiful thought. I want to bring into this idea of stress and how it affects the body, because I'm a big believer that, and the facts bear it out, that when we are under stress, whether it's internalized, whether it's external, whatever the sources are, that we secrete stress hormones in response to that. It's the whole fight or flight or flee, and
Hmm.
we're in that state so often, including how we terrorize ourselves with
Yeah.
thoughts about how we think we look or how we think we should look. So there we are trying to age gracefully. And one of the things that's aging us is our thoughts about how we're not aging gracefully, right? So
Hmm.
you can't kind of you got to see the comedy in this, right? I could age more
Hmm.
gracefully if I would
Right.
simply embrace this idea that, of course, I'm going to continue to age, hopefully for as long as I can. And by
Right.
the way, I'd like to do it well, not meaning how do I look. I'd like to do it in a healthy way, in a way where I can remain active and mobile and do all the things that I've always done and not have it be a big deal. I
Well, but
also
there's a
want,
couple of things that you're saying in there, right? All like I want to be active and mobile, and it's very specific, right? I have very specific ideas how
mm,
I want to be in my life, which is very different than let me lose weight so I am healthy, right? Those are all shortcuts from things that
yes,
are much deeper and much more powerful when we get specific. I want to walk a little more so that I stay mobile. I want to, be outside every day so that my nervous system calms down from being in nature. So we're
mhm,
talking specifically about how do I support pro aging. But there was one thing you said. You said, so I can keep doing what I've always done. And here comes the grief in our relationship with our body
mhm,
and the grief that comes in to aging. And it's real, and we need to acknowledge grief. I know we've done a whole episode on grief.
yes,
It is very much something we walk with, whether we're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, or we're 20 and we sprain our ankle.
mm,
Because, bummer, my body is not acting in the way that I want it to act. And that's sad. And I have grief. My body is not conforming, performing,
sure,
doing what I want it to do. And so
sure.
to be in this place of saying, yeah, being a human, not so easy, sometimes really hard.
It's not easy. So much of it has to do with verbiage, right? So we use the word old, right? I hate that word because the word is older, right?
Hmm.
The minute we label something as
Hmm.
old, it's almost like, well, and now it's reached its peak and that's it. Older is how you know you're alive. It's a state of being, and you are always older by seconds, by
Yeah.
minutes, by decades. When you say, "Well, I'm old," okay, either you really have your ego in place and you're just embracing that, or it sounds almost like a death sentence. Well,
It's like the end of a sentence. Well, okay, then what's that's the end of your life?
right.
Versus being somebody who evolves. And it's something that I've seen in people in my life are the people who are getting older and who
Mm,
are also willing to embrace change and evolution and
mm,
personal expansion as they age and as they have different
right.
experiences. That creates pro aging. That creates, wow, life is a never ending life lesson experience.
So imagine if we replaced the word aging with
Mm.
the word learning. Imagine. Yes, I'm
Mm.
learning. Yes,
Oh
I'm
my gosh,
continuing
I love
to
that
learn.
so much.
I'm continuing to learn. Yes, I'm learning more and more now every day. I'm learning, learning,
Mhm.
learning. Because that's actually one of the ways that you stay alive is by
Yes.
learning. Yes, there are genetics at play. Yes, there's lots of other things at play. And I want to, I want to acknowledge some privilege in this conversation because there are people that have other things that work against them that really
Yeah.
do age them much more quickly, whether it's
Yes.
economic, financial, whether it's medical. I mean, there are things that get in the way.
Yeah.
But really, it's about learning, not just, becoming older. Learning. Also, not a finite thing, but we have
Right.
moments of wisdom, right? We have moments
Mhm.
of wisdom.
Moments of
Um,
stupidity, but moments of wisdom. Hopefully more
well,
of
yeah,
the wisdom.
that too, that too. So I want to just relate this a little bit more to, how we see ourselves in our own bodies.
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many people I come across literally every day, both professionally and personally, who say this sentence. Yeah, but if I lose weight, don't
Mhm.
you think that will make me live longer? Well, sure. I would believe that if I was involved in the diet industry, if I was
Mhm.
misguided in the medical industry, I would say yes. The
Mhm.
size of I hear this loudly and hear this clearly. The size of your body is not going to determine the length of your life. What could determine the length of your life is how much stress you put yourself under about your perceptions about the size of your body. What could
Yeah.
put your life in danger is whether the medical community in which you work in and play in and exist in also has prejudice about your body size, because then you will not be treated the way you need to be treated. And all bodies are meant to move. All bodies are meant to move,
Mhm.
no matter what your limitations, no matter what your size, no matter what your age. And
Yeah.
if you keep your body moving, you keep the joints greased, you keep everything in motion.
Yeah.
And that to me is a much bigger determiner of the quality of life that you're going to have than your body size.
Yeah, and let me give you some statistics on this. This is
Oh,
I'm
please, we love
clearly a
statistics.
Becca Levy fan, but this is a quote. She said, "I was able to determine that age beliefs," right? So age beliefs, we're talking pro-aging. Age beliefs were determining their lifespan above and beyond the influence of gender, race, socioeconomic status, age, loneliness, and health. Age belief stole or added almost 8 years to their lives, conferring an even better survival advantage than low cholesterol or low blood pressure, both added 4 years, or low body mass index, right? That's losing weight, which added
Mhm,
1 year, or avoiding smoking, which added 3 years, right? So when people
mhm,
come to us and go, look, I got to lose weight because that's what's going to make me healthy,
mhm.
what's gonna make us healthy, and I'm putting a healthy in quotes. I don't love the term healthy. I think it's more of a sense
Yeah,
of
it's misused. It's
well-being.
misused.
It's misused a lot, and we need to really define for ourselves what is healthy. Is it vital? Is it movement? Is it agility? Like what is it exactly? But
Mhm,
if what I want is a good is a sense of strength and vitality and well-being, the way I'm going to get that actually is in my relationship with my body, not by managing my body, not by putting
mhm.
myself on another restrictive diet, which will then, of course, swing back to bite me in the butt, right? Because then I'm going to wonder what the heck happened? Why am I binging? Can I not stop nibbling? So
So
to
there's not only
really lean in.
there's not only the emotional aspects of what you're talking about, but just physically. It's worth saying out loud 1,000 times that the body suffers when you when you cycle weights. That
Yeah,
whatever your body weight is, for God's sake, just stay there. The idea, seriously, the
it
idea of
is.
losing and
Weight
gaining
cycling.
50, 60, 80 pounds, over 10 times in your lifetime, that is much more
Yeah,
deleterious than anything else.
yeah.
So just hang in there, stay where you are, be a strong body. See, that's the thing. It's
Mm.
about it's about being strong in whatever
Mm-hmm.
ways you define strength. Is it
Yeah.
physical strength? Is it emotional strength? Is it both? Is it just academic strength? Whatever makes you feel strong. I'll round this out by just saying that, and it's probably a reflection of my age. The word that I am most reactive to these days is this word called retirement. What does that even mean? I don't understand. I actually like I have a brain fart. I don't I don't know what it means because, first of all, if you have interests, if you have passion, if some of them happen to be career related, if some of them happen to be otherwise related, what does
Mhm.
retirement mean? I'm just going to stop and do nothing now?
Right,
It,
but
it
retirement to me, I've already processed it as something different. Retirement is a financial word.
yeah.
Retirement is a financial
Hmm.
status of I am no longer working for this company, now I get to collect my pension from there. Or I have stopped this way of earning and now I am doing this other thing. And this idea that we retire as humans, I think it has to actually be taken out of the realm of our relationship with life and
Mm.
just relegated. If you want to talk about retirement, great. It's a financial status. Okay, great. You have retired. Now you get to collect Social Security or you're doing, a
And
side hustle, whatever you're doing. But
right.
let's take it out of this idea that we as humans retire from life. We
Yes,
don't. It's
I
the
think the key
opposite.
I think the key phrase, and maybe this is sort of like the takeaway for today. The key
Hmm.
phrase for aging well is what's next? What's
Mm,
next? That's the
mm.
learning. What's next? What's
I
next?
love
Whether
that.
it's whether it's in terms of relationships, whether it's in terms of the next book you want to read, whether it's the next project you want to
Mm.
take on, the next trip you want to take if you're able, whatever that may be. What's next?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
I really believe that if you're too busy, you can't die. You just can't die when you're busy. There's no time. So keep yourself busy and just what's next? What's on the agenda?
I love that. I love that. Well, that's the perfect place to end. So, thank you, Jenny, for another juicy conversation, and thank you to all of you who are listening.
We're so glad you joined us on this episode of Body Peace.
Stay connected as we continue exploring what it means to live in your body with more ease, trust, and care by subscribing to Body Peace on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Be sure to visit us at bodypeacepodcast.com for special bonus content for those on our mailing list.